This is BYU Sports Nation, brought to you by the BYU Store, simulcast on BYU TV and BYU Radio. Now from Studio B, your hosts, Spencer Linton and Jason Shepherd.
BYU Sports Nation is live, your day-to-day play-by-play in Studio B, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. Happy Friday, March 25th. This is how we do it. Wherever and however you're connected, great to have you with us. I am Spencer Linton, teamed up with the man who, so aptly pointed out by one of our BYUSN listeners, is currently, and I'm just going to read the tweet from @MeanUncleDave, who said, "Welcome to BYU Sports Nation. I am Spencer Linton, teamed up alongside a man that has been giggling like a little girl since Gonzaga lost last evening, Jason Shepherd." How you feeling, Jason?
I am loving it. That was awesome.
It was a rough night for the Zags overall.
It was a great night for the opposition of the Zags because not only did the basketball team fail to reach the Elite Eight, and the number one overall seed is now out of the NCAA tournament, but BYU baseball handed 23rd ranked Gonzaga a whooping at Miller Park last night.
11-2.
11-2, yeah. So it was, and what was so funny was, in the dugout last night, I'm just following occasionally, seeing what the score was. And once it became a final, I cannot tell you how many people on social media reached out and was like, "You got to be really happy, aren't you, Shep?"
You've been very public and vocal about
Well,
this.
hey, look, as I found out, I was not the only one who was rooting against Gonzaga. There were a lot of people in the dugout I was talking to that were like, "Yep, I completely agree."
What you don't know is Jason is also giggling about the prospect of another BYU player, potentially to Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs, because within our show lineup, it is Pro Day for BYU football. 29 of the 32 NFL teams represented, including Jason's Kansas City Chiefs. They're on hand to watch the Cougar NFL hopefuls, led by, of course, Tyler Allgeier. All-access coverage from the indoor practice facility and several interviews with coaches and players, live reports with Dave McCann, among other things. Which Cougar can help their stock the most? More importantly, which Cougar did help their stock the most? Here are today's BYU Sports Nation headlines.
As Spencer mentioned today, a big day. It's BYU Pro Day as Cougars work out for NFL scouts at the indoor practice facility here on campus. That is where BYU TV's Dave McCann is standing by. And Dave, give us an idea of what things look like on this very important day in front of the NFL scouts.
Guys, it's Judgment Day for 5 Cougars as they try to make a good impression heading into the NFL draft. Samson Nakua, Neil Pau'u, James Empey, Uriah Leotawa, and Tyler Allgeier. So they've run through a handful of drills, the bench press, the lateral jump, the broad jump, and now they're getting ready for the 40-yard dash. The Vikings, Browns, and Bengals, the only teams that are not here. Everybody else has a rep here. Everybody needs a running back. Everybody needs a receiver. Everybody needs a defender. And everybody needs a center. That's what the Cougars are banking on today. We're going to hear from Kalani Sitake. Kairos Tonga's here. Taysom Hill's here. It's a who's who among BYU football guys in the NFL. And we expect to hear from Tyler and Samson and everybody else. So it's a full hour. Our live coverage continues right here from the indoor practice facility just down the road from Shep and Spencer. Guys?
Fantastic. Dave, I do want to ask you, is it safe to say that the buzz is not what it was last year with Zach Wilson in the house?
You know, that was a different time. And I was thinking about that on the way in today. Next year might be very similar if Jaren Hall has the kind of year that Aaron Roderick expects him to have. Plus, there'll be so many more seniors having a pro day next year. Just 5 this year. That's a good sign for how many guys are coming back for the fall team. Just talked to Peyton Wilgar. He's here. He can't wait for South Florida. He said he and Keenan Peely will be fully healthy on the field and ready to go. So the present and the future and a little of the past as we talked to Kalani about his pro day back in the day. That's all coming up in just a bit.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dave McCann, live from the indoor practice facility.
Yeah, we'll for anybody that was a part of that pro day last year, that was a I don't want to say a circus because that makes it sound like it was
an organized
It was
circus.
an organized, yeah, it was not chaotic. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was a great day to showcase not only Zach Wilson, but BYU football.
Jason, we've already mentioned it once, but why not mention it again? BYU baseball and the Batcats take down 23rd ranked Gonzaga at Miller Park last night, 11-2. You had a great seat for that. BYU scoring 7 of their 11 runs in the 7th and 8th innings. That's getting it done late in the game. They'll host Gonzaga in Game 2 of a critical 3-game West Coast Conference series tonight. Game 2, 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain. You can watch it all unfold live on BYU TV.
Yeah, and on the other side of the complex, softball playing a doubleheader against Iowa State tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And then again at 8 p.m. Eastern. The Cougars coming off a home loss to Oregon on Monday. You can watch tonight's doubleheader on BYUTV.org and the BYU TV app.
Important bounce-back opportunity. Hang out with me. Let's watch some softball, huh?
You and me tonight on the
do it.
broadcast. Let's go.
Sadie Minor Van Tassel and Elise Rollins of BYU Women's Gymnastics, get this, named Women's Collegiate Gymnastics Association All-Americans. Congratulations to Minor Van Tassel, who's a second-team all-around season winner with a career-high all-around score, tied for 10th best in program history. Rollins was named the Balance Beam second-team season winner with her career-high ranking second in BYU history. Good luck to those ladies as they compete at the highest level coming up.
Absolutely. Men's and women's track and field, well, they're splitting up today between the Littlefield Texas Relays and Bobcat Invitationals in Texas and the Aztec Invitational at San Diego State. Dallin Vorkink finished 5th in multi-events and 10th in BYU history in the decathlon at the Texas Relays. Congratulations to him. Holly Folsom Walker beat her personal best in the long jump and the 800 meters, securing a 7th place finish in the heptathlon. The meet continues today and tomorrow.
BYU men's volleyball making that oh-so-brutal trip to Malibu, California. Okay, maybe not so brutal, but in competition, tough. The Waves, number 7 in the country. That game tonight, BYU ended its 9-game losing streak, or 9-match losing streak, I should say, to Concordia Irvine at the Smith Fieldhouse recently. Why not make some waves by beating the Waves?
Such a pun.
I know.
I love it.
It's terrible.
Men's golf is tied for 5th place at the Goodwin in Palo Alto after the first day. Carson Lundell is the top-performing Cougar. He's tied for 9th at 4 under after day 1.
BYU men's and women's tennis switch places. The women traveling to take on Gonzaga and Portland, and the men at home to play Gonzaga and Utah State. The women trying to end their 3-match losing streak, and the men coming off a win against Portland last week. Good luck to both of those teams. All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending.
You're talking about it, and so are we. It's What's Trending on BYU SportsNation.
What's Trending, presented by Tim Daly Nissan, part of the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968. It is Pro Day in the indoor practice facility. We just heard from Dave McCann. We've seen some pictures and images of the early events going on. As Dave said, it's past, present, and future. Jason, we're going to give you live updates and live looks into the IPF. And here is the head football coach, Kalani Sitake, with Dave McCann.
All right, Spencer, thank you. Coach, one of the things that you made clear when you took this job is part of your job is to help your guys get jobs. And so a pro day like this is their opportunity.
Oh, yeah, and getting them internships in the professional world other than football is my job, too. So I have the honor of doing that and trying to set up as much as I can for them to have success. And the game of football is really important to our young men, and I want to make sure that we can exhaust all our resources to get them as many shots as they can. I mean, the game of football is going to end for everybody. It's inevitable, you know, that, and it usually ends when you don't want it to, unless your name is Tom Brady. So, you know, we're just going to try to do what we can to help these young men, and so far it's looking like it's doing well. And I'm really thankful for all the staff and everybody that allowed them to make this happen, and for the NFL scouts and personnel to be here as well.
What was your pro day like?
Oh, my results were not anything to boast about, but I had one, if that makes any.
That's something.
And it was nothing like this. Information out there about my results, but I can learn from what my experiences in the past and try to make it better for these guys. And I think you know, give a lot of appreciation to our staff to make this happen, and specifically Jason Ayu and David Almadova and the rest of our support staff.
You spend a lot of time with these guys explaining just how hard it is to get a job in the NFL, and there's pro days going on all over the country. What do these guys look to do today to stand out?
I think they just got to have fun and do their best. I mean, I think a lot of focus goes on this one day, but the resume and the audition was during the season, and when they had the pads on in front of people, or not in front of people when we had COVID, but when they're on that field, I think these guys made enough plays that they should get a shot in the NFL. And once they get their shot, hopefully they take advantage of it and do what they can. And you know, it's always a tough business. Not a lot of people make it, but those that make it have a lot to be proud of. But also those that make it on a team to try out, they have a lot to be proud of as well. I'm just really proud of the things that these guys will do on the field, but more than anything off the field, the type of young men they're going to be in the community. I'm really excited about that.
A lot was said about Tyler's 4.6 run in the 40 back in the combine, and he's not running the 40 today. Is that a deal breaker for a team, or is all the footage they have of him playing football outweigh that?
Well, I think he has enough film out there running away from people that ran faster than 4.6 on their pro day and combines, and I don't know, it's like he activates a different beast mode when he puts the pads on, and I think that's just speaking for what he can do. You don't see a lot of people chase him down. You don't see a lot of people. You saw him chase some people down. So even on special teams, when they look at that film, when he played defense special teams, there's enough out there. But a 4.6 flat is a really good time for a guy with his size, and we'll see what he does with the drills, the short shuttle, and things like that. But I think there's been a lot of players that ran 4.6 and slower that are making big-time plays in the NFL right now.
You got some of your big names here. Taysom's here. We talked to Kairos. We'll hear from him coming up. Harvey Unga's around here somewhere. And you want guys to come back and support the guys trying to get out.
Yeah, and those guys come back and they train here. And I mean, I want them to feel comfortable, on campus again, to come home and see our guys and just I mean, we're a family, so we want them back here working out with our staff, working out in the weight room, utilizing the fields as much as they can, and knowing that that BYU is always going to be a part of their life.
Coach Sitake rolling out pro day. We'll let you get back. Thank you.
Let's go Cougs.
Spencer, back to you guys.
Thank you, Dave McCann, with the head football coach Kalani Sitake. As he said it, well, I had a pro day. That's pretty much it. It was nothing like what the players are dealing with and having put out there for them these days.
Well, and this is an important day, not just for the 5 guys that are participating today, but this is an opportunity for BYU to showcase itself. And we talked about that coming up or a few minutes ago when we were referencing last year's extravaganza when you knew Zach Wilson was going to be a very high draft pick. Remember, the trade with the 49ers that ultimately gave them the 3rd pick, that deal was done here in Provo with John Lynch in attendance. So it really is a celebration of the BYU football program and certainly the guys that are participating today. And this is something that those 5 former Cougars are going to remember for the rest of their lives.
All right, let's get to the Tyler Allgeier headliner news here at the Pro Day situation with BYU football. He has competed in one, or at least participated, I should say, in one event. It was the bench, and we know how strong he is. 21 reps on the bench at 225 pounds. I don't know how much Tyler has to prove in terms of just his brute strength.
Yeah. And just so everybody knows, the 21 reps, that's tied for the 3rd best combine number. So that kind of puts it into perspective in terms of where that number ranks.
And he was at the combine.
And he was at the combine. So, look, this is a calculated move by Tyler Allgeier. This is not something that on a whim he's deciding I'm going to do this and I'm not going to do this. He has talked with his agent, and they have gone through all of the scenarios as to pros and cons for doing certain events. He's going to stand by his 40 time that he ran at the combine. And look, you can look at this a couple of different ways. And I think what Coach Sitake said is perfect. That, look, there are a lot of guys that are making plays and making a lot of money in the National Football League that have slower times than Tyler Allgeier in the 40. And I think what Dave asked him in terms of how much do you rely on those measurables and things you see versus the film, I think that's one of the biggest – look, and I'm not an NFL scout. I'm not an NFL executive, so they're not going to listen to me. But I think so many times we look at measurables and we either say that guy's in because of his measurables or he's out because he doesn't stack up. And I think too many times we don't look at the body of work that somebody has had. And I hope in a case like Tyler Allgeier, they see the type of workhorse he was and his durability. And I think that is what should ultimately stand for Tyler Allgeier.
They're getting ready, and by they, the 4 BYU players that are going to run the 40. Again, Tyler Allgeier not competing in the 40-yard dash. We'll get into more of the dynamics of that, of the benefits, the pros and cons of his decision to not run the 40 today. And initially, admittedly, I was kind of shocked that he was not going to do it. But again, we'll get into the pros and cons of that decision coming up. Much more from BYU Football Pro Day, which numbers are jumping off the page, and which of the 5 Cougars can help themselves the most. Don't go anywhere. This is a special Pro Day edition of BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968.
Hi, Spencer Linton here, letting you know when your company joins the BYU team as a corporate partner, your brand can be featured in sports programming on BYU TV and BYU Radio. In addition to all of the great games, you can be part of the BYU coaches shows, place your message in Countdown to Kickoff, basketball pre- and post-game shows, and each weekday on BYU Sports Nation. We invite your team to join ours and become a corporate sponsor of BYU Athletics. For details, email sponsorship@byu.edu today.
Those who leave the most meaningful legacy seem to be the ones who never intended to. The same person who loses himself seems to be the same that finds himself. And why? Well, they give the best of who they really are with no thought of return. Find a cause you can put your heart into, my son, in which to lose yourself. I started the Deseret Donor Advised Fund for this reason. Because in the end, my greatest legacy is you.
It has the most advanced defense systems ever created.
Your boy?
Yes, sir.
You ever feel like you're different to everyone else?
Everyone has their destiny, Tony. Is this thing on?
I am so freaked. Wait, are you sure you're ready for this, Astro?
I was made ready.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
I think BYU baseball just scored another run against Gonzaga.
Yeah, it's BYU baseball game day. Cougars hosting number 23 Gonzaga tonight. Game 2 of the series at Miller Park. You can watch it tonight, 8 Eastern on BYU TV and the app.
We are live in Studio B. It is Pro Day for BYU football. Extensive coverage from the indoor practice facility, including live 40-yard dash coverage right now. Uriah Leatawa is the man running for BYU and those NFL scouts. Great look at it down the pipe.
It's coming right at you, folks.
Leatawa, defensive lineman who was injury marred, but you know what? He says he's finally healthy, starting to feel good. We'll see what happens. He's just trying to get an invite to a camp, and then you never know what happens. In fact, that's the situation for the majority of these guys today. Just get on a radar and do enough to get invited to a camp.
Well, and we just got the official numbers on that run we just saw. 5.08 was the time for Uriah. Right before Uriah went, James Empey was running the 40, and he finished with a time of 5.46. But you're right. It's a situation where, you know what, get in a camp, get that one-on-one type situation, and then see what can happen.
James Empey running his 40-yard dash. Jason just mentioned those numbers, 5.46. So I'm happy to report that when I ran my 40, it was faster than James Empey, as it should be. Look at Samson Nakua. Now, here's an interesting guy in terms of how he may potentially fit into an NFL camp. And Samson off to a quick start. We'll get those official numbers to you in just a moment. But I mean, Samson, he's looking the part right now, Jason.
Look, here's the thing. No matter how good of shape you think you're in, when you watch these pro days, you realize you're just a fat slob. I mean, these guys have been working nonstop physically since the season ended to get in the best shape that they could possibly be, and this is an opportunity to showcase that.
Yes. Okay, so Samson's numbers again coming shortly. If you're just joining us, Tyler Allgeier is not going to run the 40. Samson Nakua ran a 4.48.
Not bad at all.
4.48. Now the other receiver competing today, Neil Pau, getting set for his 40-yard dash. It's going to be tough to beat a 4.48 from Samson Nakua.
That'll turn some heads right there. There's no question about it.
The thing about Neil is he's such a smooth route runner. Sometimes it doesn't look like he's moving fast, and that can be deceiving for defensive backs because he'll get to open areas. Again, he's just got such a smooth running motion.
And he's a bigger guy. So I mean he's one of the bigger receivers. And so, you know, I think look, you certainly want to have the combination of size and speed,
sure.
But sometimes look, if it's a bigger receiver, you may not necessarily need as much because you can just go up and get the football.
He's got a super long stride, a 4.71 for Neil Pau in his opening run, but man, the 4.48 from Samson Nakua is certainly jumping off the page. As far as Allgeier not running the 40, again, I discussed there are pros and cons to this. Initially, when I heard this, I was like, why? Why not? Why not take an opportunity to just better that time? Because I've seen Tyler run a faster time. He's been laser timed at faster times, multiple occasions within BYU football closed practices, but he opted not to. So I thought, why? Well, why not? It makes sense. Just do it. Then there is always the chance, well, what if Tyler doesn't run a faster time? Would that further decrease his value in his stock? There's just so much emphasis put into those 40 times that you got to be very careful about it. And so now that I look at it, I'm like, I don't hate the decision to not do it. If he feels like 4.6 is enough, and Kalani said, look, 4.6 is, for a guy his size, it's good enough. It's all about the beast mode that he transitions into when the pads actually go on. And so they're pushing scouts and NFL execs to look heavily at the film, running away from players, a la the run at Boise State and at Utah State, and then chasing down Arizona State's defender who was, I don't know, like 10 yards ahead of him and headed for a pick six.
This highlight.
This is the beast mode. This is the next level, right?
That is what I'm showing NFL scouts. If I could have one opportunity to give them one thing, it was that play. That epitomizes what Tyler Allgeier brings. It showed you how physical he is. It showed you his speed. And it showed you exactly the beast mode that Kalani was talking about.
And here's the thing that NFL scouts absolutely will notice. We call it, I don't know, burstability. Like he's very sudden in his movements. And so Tyler, from point A to point B, obviously not the fastest running back in the draft, but his ability to accelerate in tight spaces when he's running with the football is absolutely NFL level. That's where he gets his advantage against these defensive backs and these linebackers, is his burstability. He's so fast and sudden in his cuts, and then he accelerates really fast. So that's a huge advantage for Tyler Allgeier. Not running the 40 today, I get it. I understand that more now than when I initially heard he was not going to do it. He doesn't have to drastically improve that time, I think, potentially what he could gain, I don't think is as big as what he could lose if his time is not what he wants it to be.
Well, and here's the other part about it. Beyond the pro day and the combine, there are going to be individual workouts. And if a team wants him to run the 40 in their individual workout, I'm sure he's going to do that. There's lots of opportunities for him to improve that if he still chooses.
James Empey running his second 40-yard dash. We'll get that official time in just a moment. A 5.46 in his first. Empey on Cam Miller's big board, number 272 out of the top 300 available players. Again, that's according to our guy, Cam Miller, who is an NFL draft analyst and insider. Tyler Allgeier, number 57. And we were asking yesterday, okay, does that translate to a third-round pick or fourth-round pick? We'll see. Numbers coming in, Jason?
Yeah, 5.37 on attempt number 2 for James Empey, so he improved his time.
5.37. That's up almost an entire tenth. This is Lopa Leataua getting set for his second 40-yard dash. He ran just over 5 seconds in his first. And I kind of know what it's like to be in the mind of someone who is having a lot of people watch them run a 40 when I did mine. It's nerve-wracking. It is. Like, there's a lot of pressure. You got to kind of try and wipe that out and just be like, okay, just focus on in my case, the very minimal speed training that you did, the tips from BYU football players, focus on those and then just get out and go. But
your shorts were much baggier. You had a lot of...
I was running into a headwind.
Aerodynamic, yes.
All right, Lopa just finishes his second 40-yard dash.
Yeah, 5.08 was his first run, so we'll see if he can improve on that.
If you're just joining our coverage of Pro Day on BYU SportsNation for the 5 BYU football Cougars, I think the biggest number to jump off the page today is the 4.48 40-yard dash from Samson Nakua. 5.01.
So he did. He did increase
Uriah Leataua. So both James Empey and Uriah Leataua better their 40 times the second time around.
You know what I love is that you compared your 40 to the BYU Pro Day 40. That's going to be my takeaway from this show today.
I'm comparing mine to a center in James Empey.
True.
A center in James Empey who outweighs me by about 110 pounds, Jason.
Okay.
And he's running probably a faster 40 than I am right now.
Well, Samson Nakua, who we were, looking at the 4.48, he's going to get ready to go again. Like, if he can improve on 4.48, that's going to be pretty impressive here.
He was flying a live look on BYU TV. We'll explain it to you on BYU Radio. Samson Nakua, I don't think he got up to as good of a start as he did in the first one. So my gut instinct here, without seeing the official numbers, is that one will be a little bit slower. We'll see.
Yeah, again, 4.48 was Samson's first run. And we're kind of waiting for the live numbers to come in to find out exactly where that second run falls. So far, Empey and Leataua have improved on their first runs. We'll see if the same goes for Samson Nakua. But he was certainly flying.
Man, he just got he was out of the gate, so to speak, so quickly in that first run. We'll see. Again, those second numbers coming in just a moment. Tyler Allgeier, not running the 40, not participating in the vert or the broad jump. He did put up 21 reps on the bench. That's tied for third best in the combine. And here's Neil Pau as we take more live look-ins at the 40-yard dash among the 5 players participating in Pro Day for BYU football. Here is Pau with that long, smooth stride. Ran a 4.71 in his first. And we'll see if Neil improved that second number as well.
Yeah, still no official numbers from Samson's second run, but as you mentioned, Neil with a 4.71.
4.71. We await Neil Pau and Samson Nakua. Uriah Leataua, speaking of the bench press, he tied with James Empey for the most reps of any of the Cougars competing on the bench. Both put up 23 apiece. Samson was 16. Neil was 14. I'm always interested to see the wide receiver numbers because they're not technically and usually, generally speaking, the bench press is not the most important number for those type of players. It's speed and agility and shuttle drills, things like that, especially for safeties and wide receivers. But who knows? I mean, what's so quirky about this Pro Day is you just need one scout to kind of be like, I kind of like that. I'm going to take this information back to the folks to make the decisions and hand out the contracts, and I'm going to present this to them and see what happens with these players. So I guess my next question for you, Jason, is which of the other 4 players, not named Tyler Allgeier, because clearly Tyler is going to hear his name called at some point in the NFL draft, which of the other 4 players participating today can help themselves the most or have already helped themselves the most today?
Well, I immediately go to the receivers, and I think two parts to your question. I think the guy that has helped himself already is Samson Nakua with the 4.48. Now, we still have not seen any updated numbers for him or for Neil Pau. But I know I made this point that, sometimes I think we focus too much on the measurables, but knowing that NFL scouts do put a lot of stock in that, I think the guy that can help himself is Neil Pau, because he is one of those receivers that has those measurables in terms of size and speed and whatnot. So I think a guy like Neil Pau in a setting like this has an opportunity to really turn some heads and get some people to pay attention, because obviously he ended up having the injury that cut the season short last year. So this would be an opportunity, first and foremost, to be able to show NFL scouts that he's healthy, but also get an up-close and personal view of what he can do in these drills.
Yeah, knee-jerk reaction right now in terms of like which player has probably helped themselves the most, just because of – and we watch the man I think it's Samson Nakua, just because he was off the radar primarily for most of these teams. How many of us were talking about, Samson Nakua is going to be a guy that's going to make the jump to the NFL? He's off the radar. Now he's gone all in, so I just think because of where he was and what he's done for himself today, he's probably going to take the biggest jump in terms of just exposure,
right,
and maximizing that exposure.
So much of what happens, and this is not just the NFL, this is the NBA, whatever. There's so many guys that are similar, that can do a lot of things the same, but it's all about the fit and the timing. Is it a good fit at the right time for a team? That's what you're trying to match up, and sometimes you just don't know until it happens. And like, oh my gosh, that's right. This was the right guy at the right time with the right team. And that's what these guys are trying to do, is find that right situation.
More from BYU Football Pro Day on the way, including the college running backs coach for Tyler Allgeier, Harvey Unga, a former NFL guy. He knows all about this day, what it means, all the pressure involved, why he thinks Tyler decided to only compete in certain events. That and much more next on BYU Sports Nation.
My name is Spencer Finnegan. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. During my sophomore year, I got married to my sweetheart, Mary, and there's tons of unexpected expenses when it comes to marriage. We were looking for scholarships. I found the replenishment grant, and my local alumni chapter gave me a grant to help me focus in on school. I'm so excited to, now that I've graduated, give back to those students that are coming to BYU in the future.
Introducing the all-new 2021 Nissan Rogue. A fuel-efficient car that's compact enough to park just about anywhere, but has enough cargo space to fit your hobbies, your kids' hobbies, and your dog's hobbies. It's equipped with the latest safety and efficiency technology for a smooth and quiet ride wherever you want to go, whether it's through the neighborhood or across the country. Are you ready to Rogue? It's at Tim Daly Nissan Southtown.
I watch BYU TV because it has good programming for all family members, aligns to my values.
BYU TV really does help me with my parenting. It helps me show my kids good examples of the way that we should live.
No matter what you watch or listen, you always leave feeling better.
All of us together.
BYU Sports Nation is brought to you by Maersk, enabling global trade for a growing world.
Softball with a doubleheader today as the Cougars host Iowa State at Miller Park. A little preview of future things to come in the Big 12. Watch both games beginning at 6 Eastern tonight on the BYU TV app.
He is Jason. I am Spencer. To interact with the show and get Pro Day content on demand, you can follow us on all of the major social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And a reminder, this Pro Day segment is brought to you by Maersk, your integrated container logistics company enabling global trade for a growing world. And specifically, Maersk is teaming up with us to present Harvey Unga, BYU football running backs coach, Tyler Allgeier's running backs coach. He is with Dave McCann from Pro Day.
All right, you got the single-season rushing leader behind us trying to make some inroads today. What does Tyler need to do in front of these scouts?
Solidify what he did at the Combine. I mean, the guy had a great workout. He did great on his bench here. He didn't do the bench at the Combine, and he put up some great numbers. I talked to him yesterday about it, and he had asked me, how much did I do, and I gave him the number. He's like, so as long as I get more than you, I'm good, right? I'm like, hey, you'll be fine. And he did. He got more than me on the bench, so proud of him for that. There's a lot of nerves and stuff that go into this, but for him to do what he's doing and come out here, I think if he does what he did at the Combine, does all the field work and comes out here and showcases his ability to catch and run routes and stuff, I think he'll be just fine.
Are you worried about his speed in the 4.6 of the Combine? Does that trump, say, 2 years of highlights of him running downfield?
No, not at all. Not at all. If the game was that important, based off of a 40, every track person would be playing football. But I don't see that. And like you said, the game film speaks for itself. And I think there's a difference between track speed and football speed and game speed. And Tyler shows it. And I don't think it's going to hurt him at all. I think, if anything, when you pull up the tape, it's enough, in my opinion.
Looking third, fourth round, do you think, for him?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of speculation, talking to different GMs and scouts and stuff. I've heard majority of them are talking third, fourth round. I mean, hopefully he shows out today and a coach or a GM or a scout or somebody sees something that could bump him up earlier. But I'm always hoping for the best and wishing for the best, and we'll see where it goes.
What is this day like? You've had your day. What is this day like for these 5 Cougars?
There's a lot of emotions, a lot of emotions, good ones, and it's nerve-wracking as well. Like I said, there's a bunch of scouts out here today, and this is pretty much their job interview. So for anyone out there that's doing a normal job interview, you can imagine, like, I feel like it's that, but times 10, because now you have everybody watching and not just some person that's one-on-one interviewing you. You got about 20 guys interviewing you, and then your family and friends are around, so you're wanting to do your best and show out. And so it's nerve-wracking, but at the same time, like I was telling Ty, just enjoy it because you don't get this time back, you don't get this day back, and you've done this your whole life. You've trained, you've practiced, the drills that you're doing, it's nothing different than you haven't already done. So enjoy it and have fun, and I think he'll do that.
A job interview times 10, Harvey. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, one of the most public job interviews in the history of job interviews, the NFL Combine and Pro Day for sure at each individual school. In fact, let's take you back live and look at some raw footage from some of the 3-cone drills led off by Tyler Allgeier. And I'm glad that Harvey pointed it out. Tyler did not do the bench press at the NFL Combine. He put up 23, which would have ranked third most, and here is his 3-cone drill. Again, his explosiveness, his burst, we will see this most clearly when he has pads on and he's playing actual football. We use the term gamer kind of loosely, but that's the best way I can explain Tyler Allgeier, is when the pads go on and it's time to play football, he just goes to another level.
And he's durable, and that's what you need. Guys, as we talked about, it's a job interview, and guys that can be available in the NFL game in and game out, that there's a spot for players like that. And then you throw on top of it the fact that he has the size to be an NFL back and the speed to go along with it. It's a combination that works very well at the next level. And look, let's be honest. Dave asked Harvey in terms, he's still here in third or fourth round. Running back is specifically a position where there are a lot of guys in the NFL, starters too, that were drafted in the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds. You do not have to be a first-round or a second-round draft pick to make an impact at the running back spot. There are guys on rosters all up and down every round in the NFL. So really it goes back by fit. But I think I mentioned this yesterday on the show. Starting in round 3, that's where I'm really going to start paying attention. And I would be surprised if we get through the 4th round and Tyler Allgeier has not been selected. That will surprise me.
It's unbelievable that Tyler Allgeier, again, a walk-on at BYU, didn't receive a scholarship. He received a preferred walk-on status, was playing linebacker 3 years ago, and made the switch. And now here he is, BYU's clear and best draft prospect. Uriah Leataua doing the 3-cone drill. He just slipped, so he's going to have to reset there and hope for some better numbers and a better showing here in his own 3-cone drill.
I don't know if you're the same, but the 3-cone drill for me is synonymous with Daniel Sorensen.
Because it was record-setting for him?
Not just because I'm a Chiefs guy, but like you said, he set a record. The 3-cone drill very well may have given Daniel his chance at the next level. That, and I'm not saying that you discount everything else he did, but when you're putting up numbers like that, these scouts in attendance pay attention. These drills matter.
So, to me, Tyler Allgeier's draft spot, we just heard from Harvey Unga, 3rd, 4th round, talked to most prospects. Okay, yes, Samson Nakua lining up for his 3-cone drill as well. We'll take you back to that in just a moment. Whichever site you look at, I mean, I'm on NFLDraftBuzz.com. I've been paying attention to Todd McShay and Mel Kiper and Cam Mellor. He's somewhere between the 5th and 12th best running back on most draft boards. Again, it's all about the team. It's all about the fit, which execs and which scouts like you. Okay, so if he's the 5th running back drafted, then it could be as early as late round 2. But I think it kind of settles in around he's the 10th or 11th best running back, and that's probably going to put him solidly end of the 3rd round, early 4th round. But it just depends on how many running backs go. Here's another look at Tyler Allgeier, the 20-yard shuttle drill. Sorry, 3-cone drill, the 3-cone drill. Okay, the L drill, if you will. Tyler Allgeier just ran that. A good chance for him to display the burst ability we talked about. Really, Jason, it's going to come down to how many running backs get taken early that will drive the narrative of a guy in Tyler Allgeier. How high is he going to go? Well, look at when Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker III and Dameon Pierce and Brian Robinson and C.J. Spiller and Rachaad White. When do all those guys go? Because they're all projected to go above Tyler. If that happens early, then that helps Tyler's draft stock.
Yeah, there's an opportunity, depending on when the rush on running backs happen, that a guy like Tyler Allgeier could move up, because
it's a different position in the NFL these days.
It is. It really is. And look, I don't think there's going to be a significant run early on running backs. I still expect a lot of that to happen 2nd round-ish, where you have a bulk of the running backs going. So I still think right around the 3rd, like you said, mid to late 3rd, early 4th is where it seems the most logical that he would be taken. But look, you're still talking about being a top 4-round draft pick in the NFL, and those guys play. It's not like the NBA where guys that are picked at the end of the 2nd round, and even that's changing a little bit.
Yeah,
where
good luck making a roster.
Even those guys are starting to play a little bit more. But 3rd and 4th round guys are not only getting playing time, they're starters at the next level.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Tyler's listed as a solid pro prospect, workhorse-type running back that could be an immediate contributor. That, according to NFLDraftBuzzFeed.com. Okay, we're coming back with more. We'll have more numbers for you from the L drill at the Pro Day for BYU football. Neil Pau just fell during his. And here's one more look at Tyler Allgeier in the 3-cone drill. This is BYU Sports Nation.
I know what it's like to be overlooked, to be doubted, to fly under the radar. I only had one offer coming out of high school, but I was ready for every moment, every opportunity, and every shot that I got. Now I'm playing professional basketball, aiming to be one of the best shooters on the planet. And I'm just getting started. Be ready for your moment with Rapid Reboot, the future of rapid recovery.
They prefer to be bringing the heat, getting set for success, demonstrating their drive. But when their blood and sweat turns to tears or anything else, we lay the groundwork for BYU's athletes to hit the ground running again, and you as well. Intermountain Healthcare, official medical provider for BYU Athletics.
BYU Food to Go's convenient location at 2191 North Canyon Road in Provo makes bringing popular BYU foods to your next event easy. Everything's ready when you need it at the drive and load pickup. You drive in and they load no matter the weather. And stop in the on-site creamery for great BYU chocolate milk and ice cream. BYU Food to Go, bringing campus to your table. Call for details, 801-422-5001.
Uh-oh. Do you not know the groom's name?
I missed it on our first date, and it's way too late to ask.
Whenever you experience something funny, the first thing you want to do is like share it with your loved ones.
Seeing that comedy like helped us through things, we want to use that to help other people in a way.
We had one kid whose make-a-wish was to come to Studio C. It made me be like, these goofy sketches mean a lot to people.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Join us next Thursday for the BYU football alumni game as former BYU greats Max Hall, who told us he still has it, told us that yesterday on BYU Sports Nation, and Kevin Fedrick lead their teams one more time at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. Watch the game Thursday, 8:30 Eastern time on the BYU TV app.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Station. We're live in Studio B. We're also live at the indoor practice facility, recapping and covering live the Pro Day festivities, if you will, for 5 different BYU players. And the light has been shown on Samson Nakua. In my opinion, to this point, he's won the Pro Day. He's done the most for himself. He's just one of the players being discussed with Kalani Sitake, the wide receivers coach at BYU, here with Dave McCann.
All right, Fessy, you got 2 receivers on display here today. Let's start with Neil Pau'u. What are scouts like, and what is he trying to show today?
I think Neil's trying to show he's more than just a big receiver. He's very agile. He's got speed. He looks really lean right now. But Neil's strengths are what I think everyone knows. He's just a big, strong, physical receiver, very, very savvy in his play. I'm excited for him. I think he's going to do a great job today in his showing. Scouts really love just the way he plays the game. They love that he's in a day and age in the NFL where, you know, size and speed are important, but like, can you get open? That's Neil's strength, and I think he's intriguing to a lot of guys.
There's a smoothness to him,
yeah,
and some swagger.
Yeah, you see it. I've been fortunate to play basketball with him. You see the same thing. He gets it. The spatial awareness that's there, how to set people up. He's an artist. He's pretty. Everything he does. You know, some guys like they get the job done. They produce.
And very physical, similar size, but a much different player.
Yeah, like you said, a much different player. I think Scouts, he's got a huge reach. He's got a range that obviously you can't coach that stuff. And, you know, we saw a couple flashes last year where there's a ball that looks like it's about to be over his head or out of his range, and he just skies up and gets it. It brings such great energy, and he plays with that energy and with that intensity. And I think the Scouts have really taken a liking to Samson as well. I'm excited to see what he does.
What are these guys trying to do in a setting like this? It's like Judgment Day, yeah, or Meat Market, or however you want to do it. What are they hoping to? How are they looking to impress, or what good comes from today?
Yeah, really, and I was fortunate to talk to both of these guys before this day and just kind of get a pulse on how they're feeling and making sure they're not, you know, overly anxious, feeling pressure. They're feeling the right pressure, but they're just excited to come in, be poised, and just showcase that, you know, what these guys are thinking of them. They want to confirm that. If there are any doubts, they want to, you know, rid those doubts and just kind of do what they do and control the controllables. And I've liked the message that both of them have had going into this pro day, and I'm confident that they're going to come in with the, you know, good head on their shoulders and just do what they do. 2
very good receivers at BYU. Fessy, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Kalani Sitake with Dave McCann talking about Neil Pau and Samson Nakua. Again, Samson's numbers across the board today have just been dynamite.
Yeah, so his 4.48, he's going to stick with that one. The second run was just a tad slower. Same with Neil's. He's going to stick with the 4.71. But Samson in the 3-cone, 6.75, and then a 4.34 in the 20-yard shuttle. That's for Samson. Neil at 6.95 in the 3-cone and a 4.1 in the 20-yard shuttle.
Okay, so the 3-cone drill for Samson, the 6.75, that would have been third at the NFL Combine among all wide receivers.
Well done.
I'm telling you, Samson is showing some serious athleticism. He has one pro day.
This will be the storyline from today, is that Samson Nakua is the one that helped himself the most.
We're going to hear from Samson's brother, Puka Nakua, who's coming back to BYU for one more year, on what he thinks of his brother's performance thus far right after this. This is BYU Sports Nation on Pro Day.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork sells Ford vehicles including the F-150, the pickup designed for work and play. Tim Daly Ford maintains a large inventory, providing more choices for selecting an F-150 with the power and engineering to carry and tow heavy loads. The F-150's design offers comfort, safety, and a range of options to choose from. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
Turn TV time into together time with the BYU TV app. Watch all your favorite shows when, where, and how you want.
This isn't like a practical joke, is it?
No, sir. Immerse yourself in stories with all the feels. Go on uninterrupted journeys of discovery and see families coming together while watching with your own. See new and original content, all for free on the BYU TV app.
The race is on. Go! 4 teams powered by faith and driven to find family, with only their teammate, paper maps, and inspiration to guide them.
Where are you?
The contestants race for the ultimate prize.
I am one step closer to knowing who my father is.
The chance to meet their blood relatives and discover more about who they are. Relative Race, driving families together. Watch Season 9 on BYU TV or on the free app.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
BYU Sports Nation always available on demand via the BYU TV and BYU radio apps.
Or download the podcast. Just Google BYU Sports Nation podcast. And while you're there, please subscribe, rate, and review.
Samson Nakua having an unforgettable pro day for BYU. He has jumped off the page in terms of the numbers he has put up. And to hear more about Samson's performance, who better than his younger brother Puka to assess what his older brother Samson has done?
Hey, that's right. I've got his lead analyst here. Your big brother's having a good day.
A really good day. He's looking fast out there. I'm out here rethinking. I'm like, dang, am I the fastest one anymore? I know Kai's trembling in his boots right now, seeing him run like that.
And Kai is here, so he goes a 4.48 in the 40, and then we just saw him turn some good speeds in these drills. What's his motivation outside of getting a job?
I know seeing Big Brother Kai and just having our family here, my mom and my grandma was able to come out, but I mean, this is what he's been putting in the work to come out for this day, and he's putting good stuff on tape, so I'm excited. He's got his film and stuff, but to come out and execute in the drills, he looks really good.
He walked up and down next to us, getting loose, and chance to say hi to him. This is Judgment Day.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of pressure. Probably not been more pressure on him at any other time other than beating Utah than today.
Yeah, most definitely. You put it right on there. I don't think other than beating Utah, it's been smooth sailing until now. So he looks really good. He's looking swole. I mean, he's running good. Looks smooth. Excited to see him out here run these routes and just finish off the day. It's been a real good day for him. Just got to finish it off right.
What's he hearing from the NFL as far as a future?
I'm not really too sure, but I know you at 6'4", he ran that 4.4, so I think hopefully he gets some more calls and start coming. But he looked real good, so I'm excited. He come out here and finish these routes up and polish off the good day.
Now you have 2 years of eligibility remaining at BYU, but are you looking around and seeing these scouts and thinking that I could be here next year doing this stuff?
Definitely. I was getting excited. As soon as they started the bench, I started sweating, getting a little bit of anxiety, getting the juices flowing. I'm like, man, like I think I'm ready to go. I don't know if I would have hit 16, but I'm like, I think I could definitely be ready for this moment next year.
You got a few more days of practice before spring camp wraps up. What do you want to get done?
Just have fun, just look good. We're getting reps, we put in some new stuff, and just the fluidity of it all. I know that's something I've been talking about a lot, but this is the chance we get to go when we're going up against 11 guys on defense and we have the full flow of our offense. So it's been fun to keep myself healthy and then to continue to look good and run good routes for Jaron so he can sling that thing to me.
All right, Puka Nacua, Samson's analyst here on Pro Day, an outstanding receiver. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, back to you.
Great stuff from Dave McCann and Puka Nacua. I agree. He looks fast. Speaking of his brother Samson, he looks strong. He looks athletic. Teams are taking notice. He's won Pro Day.
Yeah, he by far has been the story of Pro Day with the numbers that he's putting up. But speaking of numbers, you did a little research, and we were looking at the 3-cone drill for Tyler Allgeier, which turned out to be a 7.09.
Yes.
Against running backs, that's pretty good. But you say to compare to another position.
This is just to double down on the fact that his burst ability,
yes,
like his quick movement and his suddenness is real. His 7.09 would have been top 6 among wide receivers at the NFL Combine, not running backs. With his size, competing against wide receivers, the 3-cone drill, 7.09, top 6. He's a huge human being.
Don't need no 40-yard dash.
Oh, my goodness. Again, and just his ability to keep his legs churning through contact. Like, he is a physical beast and durable and a workhorse. So Tyler did his work at the Combine. Samson Nacua took full advantage of Pro Day here today. He may have well just earned himself an invite as a free agent to a camp.
Well, and what this day also does is with these scouts in attendance up close, this will now be the next step for these guys is who wants the individual interviews. So, okay, this is a guy that could fit into our system. So now you're going to have all of these scouts communicating with the players' agents and trying to set up when they can come in to talk to the teams. That's the next step for these guys, and that's when things get really, really exciting because then you get that personal one-on-one feedback from guys that could potentially draft you.
Oh, and Samson's strong, too. His 16 reps on the bench would have been number 2 among all receivers at the NFL Combine. Our lead voice of the day, presented by Sundance Mountain Resort, comes from at Beck to Harleen, saying essentially, I think Tyler Allgeier bet on himself. The 4.6 is good enough. He bet on himself today that is good enough. And today's Rise and Shoutouts presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics. Let's give it to all 5 of the BYU football players participating in Pro Day today.
Absolutely. Love to see each and every one of them in the NFL. It's awesome to be able to follow the Cougs in the NFL, right?
Hey, well done, boys. Especially Samson at 4.4840. But thanks to today's guests, Kalani Sitake, Harvey Unga, Festus Sitake, and Puka Nacua.
Conversation continues 24/7 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
For Jason, I'm Spencer. Shout out to Spencer Reed. We'll see you tonight for BYU baseball and softball. Go Cougs.